How's it going, Andrew?
What's going on, Matt?
Not much. How you feeling today?
I'm a little rough around the gills, as they say.
Well, happy belated birthday when this comes out. Happy early birthday as we record it.
Thank you. Yeah, that party was fun last night. Thank you for helping cook the tendies.
Not a problem.
To the listeners, I had a chicken tendy party last night, which may be the first time someone's ever had a party that was devoted to chicken tenders.
Probably.
For my birthday. So we had a fryer outside, cooked. I had beer battered chicken tenders. Well, they're closer to nuggets.
They were chicken chunks. Yeah.
Yeah, chicken chunks that we fried up. They'd marinated overnight in pickle juice. So they were super tender, delicious. So that was fun. I think it was a success.
No, it was pretty good. I think everybody enjoyed themselves. And besides my shoes being all greasy, it was kind of fun to stand by an outdoor fryer and just cook them up. So
yeah, I appreciated the helper. By the time we got to that last batch, it was like 10 o'clock. So I'm happy you helped, or I would have been trapped there the whole time.
Right. How was that? How about that open house that we had on Thursday?
That open house was, I would say, one of the hardest events I've had to do as a junior warden, except for the Robert Burns dinner, which I was kind of comparable. And the difference is the Robert Burns dinner is hard because it's one of your first events.
Right.
So you're like very green, and it's kind of a challenging event. This one is you're more experienced, but it has its own unique challenges. But overall, really big success. We had 150 people show up.
Roughly.
A bunch of interest in a handful of the appendant bodies and the Masonic lodges and the youth groups.
Yep.
Yeah, it was cool.
I would call it a resounding success, especially in the second year of the event. So we might have to dedicate an episode to talking about what we do there at some point.
Yeah, I think been a lot of push for more community involvement and like opening your doors up to the community to kind of bring them in, and then doing an open house like we did this one. It's kind of nice because it's a family event too, so Masons can bring their kids to go jump in a bouncy castle and play games, and then it's also a fun way to invite the community in and see the actual size of the Masonic experience. Like you can see all these different groups and all these different people, and it really kind of is a good showcase.
Well, so we don't make our guests sit around for too much longer, why don't we cut that there? And I think maybe we could do something about that for our next episode, talk more about how we built that open house, and go ahead and run the intro.
Loosen up your ties and roll up your sleeves. It's time for Fellowship with Matt and Andrew. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily the views and opinions of the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin or any other Grand Lodge or any appended body.
All right, today we have a very special guest with us, and believe it or not, the only voice to be heard on every episode of Time for Fellowship with Matt and Andrew, considering Andrew's missed some and I have missed some. So we have Worshipful Brother Curt Campagna with us, who recorded that wonderful intro that we have for the show. How you doing today, Curt?
Well, hello. Let's get on to it, right? It's Matt and Andrew. Yeah, no, it is a complete honor to be here with you, brothers. You guys have done such a great job with this whole podcast. Your energy, what you talk about, and how you talk about has been very appreciated, I know, by many. And I hope that those out there who do enjoy it, please go out there and share it with other brothers you have out here. Let's expand this. I mean, this is an awesome, awesome thing, and you guys have done a great job. It's an honor.
Thank you very much, Curt.
Thank you. So for our listeners, Curt, can you give us a little bit of your Masonic background?
Well, I've been doing this for quite a while, and I've been a member of Damascus Masonic Lodge number 290. It's not just a number, it's a goal, as we like to say. I've been past master a number of times at Damascus, honor-wise and everything. I've always said it's really my lodge's raising of me that's the most important thing to me. I've gone through the York Rite. I've gone through the Scottish Rite. I'm a Prince of Jerusalem. I've got shrine stuff I've been doing. I've been involved with the director's staff and part of the motor corps for many a years, and I was captain of both the quartermasters and the big bikes for quite a while. And then I also have started up a new group with another brother and a fellow noble, Jeff Delaney, and he is my co-partner on it, and this pirate group has gotten huge.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the fastest growing, largest group and newest group in Shrindom. And we're having a blast with that. And I'm also director of the ritualistic divan of these shrines. So I guess I've done a couple things. I've been a past Grand Chaplain for twice over, and I've been an area administrator. I've never asked for titles. I've never asked for anything to move up lines or anything. But when you see that there's a void there, you just have to kind of say, you know what, I'm going to do it.
Right.
And the other thing is, if you have a problem with something, you can't just complain about it. What are you going to do to fix it?
Yep.
And that's something that we have to try and do in our Masonic stuff and in work and everything else. I mean, that's a life lesson. So
that's something we've said many a times on this podcast, is that, you can't, if just complaining about something doesn't do anything, figure out what the solution is, or at least start throwing things at the wall until something sticks,
Yeah, if you care about it, you better step into it. That's all it is.
How long have you been a Mason now, Curt?
Oh, I think I'm close to 27 years now.
Okay. And what first got you interested in Freemasonry and brought you to the fraternity?
Well, it's interesting. You have sometimes family members who, like a father or a grandfather, someone who was involved. The only one that was involved in my family that I knew of was my grandfather, who he was everything to me. He taught me how to be me, how to be a man, how to be a father, everything. And he was a Shriner and a Mason. And he brought us to all the pancake breakfasts that we had back in the day, taking over the world one pancake at a time. Yep. That's what we do. And he brought us to the shrine parades and everything, and to the circuses and whatnot. And, I used to sit there watching the parade, and I used to watch these little motorcycles go by. It was in Illinois. It was back in McHenry, Illinois. And see these little cars go by, and you see these little bikes going by, and then they're getting bigger, and they're getting bigger, and they're getting bigger. And it was just like, I want to do that someday. That's something I want to do.
Right. And
it's been a blessing that I've been able to follow my grandfather's steps. I got involved. My grandfather was there for my raising. It was the most important thing for me. And then further, I found out that my great aunts and whatnot were also part of the Masonic orders, with our Eastern Star and everything. And so it just kind of opened everything up. I was the only one in my generation that's done it.
Okay.
We kind of skipped a generation.
Right.
And then I was the only one.
That's a very common theme, that there's that skip generation.
It sure is.
Yep.
It's weird. Do we understand why that generation decided to skip? Was it a rebellious nature saying, we don't want to do what our parents did? Like, it's weird because there was a lot of continuity, but I know that's been talked about.
I think one of the big issues was that they didn't talk about it as much. You're kind of going back into that time where you have people found out that some of their family members were Masons after they passed away. That's that time frame where people were very secretive about it.
I think you're absolutely right. That was the way it was in the family. I knew Grandpa wanted me to maybe find this out, but I had to find it out myself.
Right.
And the other thing is, I think in those days, when my grandfather was involved, there was more of a sense of, I would say, unions and shops.
Right.
We had businesses that people stayed in their businesses forever and ever. And a lot of times, these fraternal organizations were actually based upon one place. So, he was part of the sheet mill workers.
Okay.
Well, guess what? In his lodge, it was a lot of sheet mill workers.
Right.
So I think there was a lot of that. And once we got away from that institutional type of thing, we ended up, kind of losing a lot of people.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is
I
interesting.
never thought about that facet of it with like if you had a bunch of people working in the same shop and one was, then you'd probably get a second one. And once you had a second one, you ended up with four. And then once, some of that industrialization started getting more automated and people weren't working as closely together. Yeah, that.
Well, and like if you think about it, if you look up in the forward Freemasonry book, like the history of every lodge, right? You'll see all of them are like, this one was like, ours was a metal or puddlers. They would work at the wrought iron down at the factory over there.
Yep.
And then later in its history, ours was a cop and firefighter lodge. Right. And so you do see, and I've seen that in a lot of the other lodges' histories too, where it is like a certain profession like picks a lodge, and then that one comes filled with a lot of people in the same industry.
Right.
But yeah, and I mean, the modern day, like people just are not as close with their coworkers anymore because the world's kind of gotten separated, and you're able to work independently a lot of the time. So like, it's not as much of a draw to say like, yeah, we'll be friends inside and out of work through lodge or something like that too.
Right. Well, you don't have the lunch whistle going off anymore. These guys aren't sitting there all having lunch together and stuff, right? Either, you know.
With Damascus, we actually were a lot of musicians, and they actually had a band that they would actually play at events and everything. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, just all different types of things. You have a lot of the factories around here.
Yeah.
You can see they went to certain lodges.
Yep.
Where was Damascus's original building back in the day? Where were they found? Where were they located at their foundation?
Well, they were part of Nathan Hale originally.
Okay.
And we split off. I don't know the complete history of where we started off, but we've never owned a building.
Gotcha.
We like to call ourselves a gypsy lodge because we've moved and moved and moved. When I started, we were in Greenfield with Nathan Hale's building over there, and then we actually came here, and we've been here ever since. I remember that move, and it was kind of a shocker to some of these guys because you get used to going to a certain spot every time.
Yep, you get used to the facility. You know where everything is. You got your keys. So yeah, it's hard. I can definitely imagine that it's hard to adjust to a completely new space, but also can be exciting too.
It sure can. I still own a Damascus Lodge Greenfield jacket that I had from way back when. But Lake has been a great move for us. It's just such a wonderful feeling here of family, and we just enjoy Lake. We've done a lot together. We've helped each other when they need help, and it's just nice to have kind of like a brotherhood between the two lodges. It's very healthy.
Yeah, and there's been a big push in the last couple of years to try to build more bridges between the groups within our building. And like one of the newer things is Damascus's trustees come to our trustees meeting quarterly just to get caught up on what we're doing, ask questions, do stuff to try to make it a little bit like so communication stays open so we don't feel like we're in little silos in the same building just because we meet on different days, which has been immensely helpful too.
Well, it's been very helpful because then you can, talk about concerns both ways, and you can talk about, future capital projects and stuff that's going on, and start having some of those conversations about, we know this needs to get fixed. We're working on it. We're trying to get quotes. We're doing this, and there's open communication there, so everybody knows stuff is going on.
Well, and I was part of the Damascus trustees last year was my out time. That was my fulfillment of my years. And that was our discussion, was we need to really have better communication. And isn't communication all what we need in Masonry? And our failures happen because of lack of communication.
Agreed.
I truly believe that. But we said we're not communicating enough.
Right.
And with that, we need to know what direction you're going in, because we're kind of riding with you on this.
Right. Yeah.
And so we want to help. We want to be part of that solution. The stronger you are, the stronger we are. The stronger we are, the stronger you are. We work together, and we appreciate also, again, like you said, all the other side groups are here. We love supporting the other groups that are here too, and I know Lake has gone out of their way to really kind of get that closer and closer, and I love that. That's what Masonry is. It's family.
Yeah, I agree. And that was one of the big goals originally coming up and starting with that open house that we were talking to about at the beginning a little bit last year, was to start opening up those lines and have everybody working towards a common goal together, that could benefit all of us. So
awesome.
Sorry, not to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I had a debrief with all those members at the end, and I was like, one of the secret goals of this was, like, the reason lots of times the brethren in your officers line is so close is because they work together on stuff, right? They have to accomplish something together. They have to suffer through lots of Zoom meetings or whatever it might be, and do all that stuff, and that's what, like, it builds bonds between people. So by forcing all of us into a place to have to work together, it can help make not just like, I mean, one, you get to know more people, so you know who you can talk to about stuff, but then you actually have like a personal relationship with them now, which is nice.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a question for both of you now. Since COVID came, Do you not see that there's a more of a desire to be closer to people and to actually interact with people a little bit more while using the Zoom or whatever you're going to use? To use that as a wonderful tool in your tool belt, but honestly, we have this desire to be with friends and family.
I would 100% agree.
Yeah, I think COVID was like an eye opener for people where they suddenly realized how isolated they were when the isolation was just turned up to the extreme. They were like, I was pretty isolated to begin with, but now it's like gotten to the point where like now I'm aware of it pretty intimately. And then you would say like, the illusion is shattered, and they're like, I really need to find something where I can like deal with this problem. And I think that's also why Masonry is seeing such growth right now, is the value of what we've been doing for centuries has kind of come back full circle as valuable again, where people were like, well, I could move to any city and I can find a group of friends to call my family. And, I think that's very valuable, and I think it's something that we offer.
But with that growth, we also acknowledge that we're also getting smaller. Mm-hmm. Now, we got to keep that growth going, and that's so vitally important. But we're also getting smaller, so we're having to realize that we have to rely on each other a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have to have those bonds. You have to have that relationship, or it just doesn't work.
Right. And that's kind of what I've been trying to say for a while to even just all the lodges in District 12 and all the Worshipful Masters is like, look, we can be really successful if we all work together. And if we ever want to do something huge and we can all pool resources to do it so nobody's on the hook for the whole thing, we have this foundation set up to be able to do that, right? And, if we're all getting along and we're all playing nice in the sandbox, we can all succeed, right? We don't have to like each other, but like let's at least work with each other and, love each other still, right? You don't have to like me to love me. So
I know that. No. I think Mike DeWolf was the one who really, he'll always stick in my heart and in my mind when he was Grand Master, because he really pushed, and I'll never forget how much he did, that, it's all about your Master Mason. We're all Master Masons.
Right.
And that's the most important thing out of all of this. I don't care if you come from a lodge up north. I don't care if you go lodge down. We're all a family. We're all Master Masons. And we got to keep, and this is the hardest part about it, and I know some people probably will say even that I'm working on mine also, but we got to keep this dang ego off of the plate. The ego, the I've got to get a title. I got to get a title. It doesn't work in Masonry.
Titles are overrated, anyways.
Right. I believe I've heard stories about that when DeWolf was installed as Grand Master, and he did a whole talk where he took off all his gold and stuff while he was talking and put on a plain white apron. Yeah,
that was the biggest gift he ever gave me was the understanding of what really this fraternity is and what's most important about it. And I'll be forever grateful on that, and I will constantly teach the message that he taught to us back in that day.
Right.
So
well, and it's super helpful because in a fraternity that has so many places you can distract yourself if you would like, there's so many things to do, right? So, but you're only a single person. You can't be in all the things and do all the things, and if you do, you're going to hate it eventually because it's too much. You can pick places to spend your time, but the reminder of the Master Mason saying, you should do these things, but not at the expense of your Blue Lodge, right?
Correct.
Saying you need to come back and support the heart and soul of Masonry, which is the Blue Lodge. And then while you're doing that, if you want to branch out and do some other fun stuff or experiment with different bodies and, work other, degrees, great, you should. But if it gets too much, you always can have your home base at your Blue Lodge, and that's where you got to put your heart and soul into too.
Right. Yeah. My only concern about that is, and I agree with it. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's through all these years of doing this or whatever. Is don't forget this is a lifelong thing. This is not I'm joining this for the next 2 years. This is I plan on going till I basically pass away.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so this is a lifelong thing. So I tell people not to get so excited about, having to do it all or, you do your interests, but live your life, but make sure that you understand your Blue Lodge is always there for you. I sing barbershop. with the Midwest Vocal Express. And it's something I've had to put on the back burner for all these years because it conflicted some with some of my Masonic times. And so I have said, well, I've got about 3 more years, I think, before I'm ready to retire, and I may be moving around a little bit, that I want to do still some of that.
Sure.
And so I've actually backed a little bit away from the Blue Lodge, a little bit. Yeah, I'm still here, still alive, but to be able to fulfill some of those other things that I've done. I've already been through the lodge. I'm still there for the lodge, but I got to let the new members, the new officers, do their thing.
Sure.
Otherwise, I should be jumping back into line because I'd be complaining, and if I'm complaining, then I should be back in.
Right. So. Well, and you bring up a very good point there, where you want to be there at a certain point to support your Blue Lodge and be there and give guidance and stuff like that. But yeah, at some point you have to loosen that grip a little bit and let those new guys kind of start to run with it and kind of put yourself back in the shadows and maybe not be there all the time, so they're not always trying to lean on you, right? And let them find their feet. Otherwise, they're not going to succeed when inevitably one day you aren't there, right?
As a past master, we're there to complain about the Masonic green beans, and we're there to give counsel when asked.
I think that's a good safety to put on a past master, saying, if you as a past master can say, when I'm asked, I will give the best counsel I can give, puts a good safety on the other version where it's like every decision has to have, but I don't know about that.
Right.
We have ways of making you go our way. All of us old guys are looking at you right now, and you're doing it wrong. Wrong, I say.
So, not to change the topic too much, but I did have something I was interested in. Can you explain a little bit how you and, I forget the other brother you mentioned.
Jeff Delaney.
Jeff Delaney.
Yeah, Jeff.
Can you explain to our listeners a little bit about this new group, the Jolly Badgers pirate unit that you guys started, and kind of how it got off the ground? And I know that people might be interested in knowing how does you don't see like new groups popping out of nowhere in Masonry very often, so I think people might be interested to know how that kind of went.
We're kind of set in our ways, aren't we? Yeah, it was one of those things where I'm very fortunate to be able to travel somewhat and have gotten to meet just a ton of wonderful families, brothers and their families as we've traveled. And we were in North Dakota, and they have pirate units there, and started talking with them and going, wow, this is kind of fun. A little Bristol in the past, Renaissance Fair time history we have. And I'm like, boy, this is just something that could really go. And I started researching it more and more, and I started realizing that they're popping up all over, and some of the groups are huge. And I thought, I'm going to talk to Jeff, because Jeff and I were both the same age. We're diminished skills in maybe the motorcycling. We've done it for so long and everything, but through time, your body kind of takes over. And, obstacle course work, this is very, very demanding stuff to do. Not that we probably couldn't get away with it, but we were transitioning ourselves a little bit. We love our motor corps, don't get me wrong. I actually have a tattoo, which I still feel is the only tattoo, or the first tattoo that was ever put in Wisconsin, and it is the motor corps symbol. My love for the motor corps is there, and it will always be there. But we thought, let's see what about we'll try and put a group together that maybe is a little different than the others. First of all, we haven't had a new marching unit or parading unit since I've been involved with the Shrine. And some of the parading units we actually have lost. They've kind of faded out. And we were starting to think and I said, well, what about a pirate unit, Jeff? And Jeff said, that has some potential. And then, over a few drinks, we decided that we were going to maybe try this whole pirate unit thing. The nice thing is, through discovery, we found out that Medina in Chicago already has one.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, perfect.
And being pirates, we just got all their paperwork.
I thought you were going to say sailed down there.
Well, we did that too. But we got their paperwork, and we just kind of copied everything. We're pirates. That's what we do. We stole exactly what kind of verbiage. So everything was already written out, and that's the hard part. making bylaws. Anyone who's ever done it, especially for a new group.
I've been there.
Yeah, I know you have, and I've done enough. And so this was like a primo time. I mean, we got everything right here. All we have to do is change it from a Diana to AAA, and they were very willing to give it to us.
Right.
We all worked together.
And that I was just going to say that's an interesting point there, because it's not like if you have the roadmap for something already, just give it to somebody else to help them get it off the ground.
Why
too.
reinvent the wheel when something's working so well?
Right.
I mean that's no. And so we put it together, and our main focus that we decided to have was that this is for everybody. Unfortunately, with AAA, we don't have too many floats.
Right.
And so I'm thinking, if a guy's been parading, you start thinking like this when you're an older guy. When I get to the point where I can't parade or I can't drive something or whatever, why, if you spent your whole life doing that, do you have to stop?
Right.
Why don't we give the nobles that are out there the dignity to be able to sit on a pirate ship, put a fluffy shirt on, and wave? Yep. I mean, let's give them that dignity, and not just that, but for our younger guys, not everyone can jump into something expensive or have the skill set to play this or that. Not that they can't in the future, but let's start them out. Let's get them on the ship. All they need is a puffy shirt, and it's $30 to join. That's your first year's dues. We made it easy to join, in other words.
Yeah.
And then we also said we don't want politics. No politics. There's too many drama llamas out there. Mm-hmm. We didn't want it. We just wanted to have fun and remember the number one thing. We're out here for smiles, for the kids, for our Shriner kids.
Right.
And let's keep our focus to what it means to be a true Shriner.
Right.
And so we have been able to do that, and we've grown quite quickly because of that. It's something that I'm so proud of, and I'm having a blast.
Well, and you should be proud of it. I see everything going on about it, and unfortunately, I am a member, but
unfortunately, it's not.
Not unfortunately that I'm a member, but unfortunately, as a member, I haven't been able to really be at anything yet, just because my life's pulling me in 20 different directions.
What did I say? It's a lifelong thing, so you don't have to, and there's no pressure for you to.
Right.
The only thing we feel bad about is you didn't have fun when we did.
Didn't get to go have a good time with you guys. Yeah.
The other focus is we know that some of the units are really hurting out there, and so we thought, you know what, let's be that friendly family member. If you need help, just call us. We'll come and help you.
Right.
I've offered all the groups that if they want to come on the ship at all, just come on the ship. I don't care. Come on the ship. I talked to the bagpipers, and I said, if you ever have a real long one that's really hot, come on the ship and play. I don't care.
Yep.
And we'll go to your stuff too. And the other thing is we're a character unit. And so being a character unit gives us a little more flexibility. We can parade, yet we can also go to the hospitals, the VA center, the Ronald McDonald House. We can go to these other groups and we can actually work with them. Yeah. We can put smiles on faces without having to be a parade unit.
Can you, for our listeners, explain what a character unit is?
Yeah, it's basically a unit where you have, just like I was explaining, something that you don't have to be a parade group. You have an example of a character unit would be the clowns. So the clowns would be a character unit. They put on these faces, they become characters, and they entertain. And they can do it also in a parade. We can do the same thing. Each one of us is a different pirate, different setup. It's your own. And so we develop these characters, and in turn, we can use them to entertain.
Oh, got
it. Right. As opposed to something like the Long Riders, where they have that really long bike that fits like 21 people on it, and they all ride it together. That's pretty much a parade show thing. You're not going to really try to take that to the hospital, right? Whereas like the clowns or the animals or the pirates can still throw on their costumes. Maybe you don't have the ship, getting pulled as a float, but you can still go do something outside of parades, right?
Oh, got it.
Yeah. And we're very, very proud of our Long Riders. That bike is, I believe, a world record bike, and they do a great job. That's the other thing we try to do. We try to promote our other groups. We're proud of every group that actually comes by and participates. And so we tried to bring in that goodwill kind of a thing, but we can also do stuff outside. We spent the summer, we were asked if we could go down to Chicago, and we did, to entertain some adult behavioral issues, people that needed some entertainment for their picnic.
Okay.
And they're mentally challenged, and they loved what we brought. And they were wonderful. The whole staff, all of the patients, or they're participants. I don't think they're even a patient, because I believe this whole place they have down there is not just there, but it's also to teach and place for vocation.
Okay.
And so they just had a blast with us. We had a blast with them. It was awesome. Last night, I was actually playing a pirate. We went to D-Prom. We were asked to help with that.
Yeah, because they were doing a pirate-themed thing, weren't they?
They were on the Edelweiss, so we were there to show them what to do and how to do it. Only fun for everyone.
That's awesome.
So, we did that, and that was a blast, and that was the youth. So it's not all about, how can we bring in more money, but it's also how can we entertain and serve the community.
Well, and it seems like whatever you guys have been doing has been working, because you guys are like the fastest growing unit. I think what's always made, I'm not a Shriner yet. I have the same philosophy that you've been recommending. I haven't even done my Order of the Temple yet. I've just gone through 2 bodies. I'm doing it like every couple of years. I'll pick up a new one, because I go in my 30s. I got plenty of time. And if I do it all at once, then it's what do I got to look forward to? But pirate unit's always interesting. It interested me. You missed me at the Ren Fair, where I actually had a pirate costume.
I know.
When Jim saw it, he's like, if Curt sees you, man.
I know. Sign him up.
Yep.
Yeah,
But,
it is fun, and that's what we're trying to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of what the shrine is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be a fun group, maybe a little crazier group at times. They say we let our hair down, but not enough of us have hair anymore, so it's kind of rough. But it's supposed to be having fun, but also doing stuff for our Shriner children. And in this capacity of the pirate group, we are a group to do that. And so we're just starting out. This is our first full year of parades, and we were in high demand. People were calling us. We're still doing Christmas parades coming up. We actually, those are usually nighttime ones.
Right.
So we have a generator and we run lights up and down.
do you guys got a Santa pirate?
No, on purpose.
Oh, you don't want to offend anyone because Santa can't swashbuckle?
Well, there's usually a Santa Claus that's an actual Santa Claus in the parade.
Right.
So you don't want to kind of say, well, we're the Santa Claus.
What about pirate elves?
I'm waiting for you two to join.
Andrew, you can be the pirate elf.
We're both putting
This is a team thing.
we're both putting tights on.
No. I'm working on figuring out how I can.
Don't act like I haven't seen him with tights on before. So.
I'm working on figuring out how I can do a Viking pirate and make it appropriate.
And see, that's the fun thing. It's not just being part of the group, but it's finding this character. And we talk a lot about that, about development of your character. And that is something that we're working on as we're evolving. But like mine is, they called me Admiral. We only have one ship, but they called me Admiral. And I said, well, okay, I want it to be something that the kids would understand, and yet maybe the adults somewhat too. I have a lot of jewelry on because I'm the Admiral. Mm-hmm. I'm the loud, energetic one that's out there. So I call myself Admiral Bougie Bob. Nice. And they say, and I tell the kids, because then the kids go, Bougie Bob? I go, yeah, when I fall off the ship, I bob and I bob. And then the kids get it. And then all of a sudden we have a little laugh. So, I mean, you got to find that character. But there's talk of sort of like a Scottish with, the whole outfit on, being a pirate.
I was planning on
Viking is
that was
very
one of the
big.
Things. I was working on finding that good middle ground between being like kilted and Viking and mixing it with pirate. So I'm working on putting it together in my head.
Well, I'll be looking forward to your first pirate podcast, as we call it.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. What would you say? So you guys have had your first full calendar year. What event have you been most proud of on your maiden voyage, I could say?
That's a difficult one. It's a good question, but there's just too many smiles to make one one event. I guess I have one, and I guess if I have to narrow it down, and I have a card that I give out, a business card. On the back of the business card, I show a little child who wanted to shake my hand, and I bent over, and I was shaking this little child's hand, and I got a photo. Someone took a photo of me doing that, and I put it on the back of my card, and I said, "This is why we do what we do. Mm-hmm. This is why we do what we do." So I have like little snapshots of favorites,
Right.
Yep.
I had it one MSA 2 years ago where I was walking, and we had this is an adult male come by and go, "Hey, can I have a picture with you?" and I said, "Sure." He goes, "I really love pirates." And his wife was up on the doorstep over there getting her camera, and she goes, "No, he really does love pirates." He was so energetic and so excited to be able to have, go, "You look like a real pirate. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, "No, it's no problem." And she said, "You know what? You just made his day."
Right.
And I'm thinking, okay, I could have been at home playing a game or watching TV or doing nothing, but I just made a difference in this gentleman's life, hopefully.
Right.
That today was a good day because I was able to fulfill one of his, desires and loves of
Right.
getting a picture with a pirate.
It's a very interesting niche thing to love, but it's nice that you were there at the right place at the right time so you can make that guy's day.
It's just that's what it's about. It's about 5 million snapshots, and putting them all together, and you kind of go, yeah, there's some days maybe it's going to be 93, 95 degrees out there, and I'm putting on leather boots here, and it's going to be warm, and and you kind of go, yeah, but how many more snapshots can I get today?
Right.
I mean, how many more changes can I do? How many more smiles can I put out there? I love the smiles of the little ones who aren't going to smile for you, and then you can turn them around. And I actually had one of those where I was at the Janesville Renaissance Fair, because we like to go to that one too.
Yeah.
And this little kid wouldn't acknowledge me, and yet the other ones did and want to have a picture by me. And then they were trying to get their cameras together, and I noticed that he had like one of those little walking dog kind of toy things. And I started asking him questions, and he started answering them. And he wanted nothing to do with me in the beginning.
Right.
But by the time we had finished that, he gave me a big hug,
Yep.
and he wanted his picture. And I thought, you know what? That's a win.
Oh, yeah.
That's a win. And that's what, life is about. And I figure I'm having a blast. I'll just keep doing it until I get tired of it.
Yeah.
So.
Makes sense to me. So you had mentioned that, you were trying to find more time to do your barbershop quartet and some other things, and you're very active in a lot of places in Masonry.
Yeah.
What type of advice would you give Masons on trying to find balance when it comes to your Masonic commitments as well as other aspects of your personal life?
Well, first of all, let's never forget what we're taught in our Masonic lodges. Always make sure that you do have time for your own faith. Whatever it may be, however it may be, that is what binds us together. That's what truly sets your soul together, which you need to work on. And then family, that's got to be up there. The nice thing about Masonry, and not enough people I think understand, is you can go and do all this stuff, but Masonry actually has brought my family more events to do together. You can weave it in to your family, and it can be kind of an enhancement to your family in a way. You can go to more dances, more events, this kids stuff. You can go through the youth groups. What a wonderful programs with Jobies and D. Malay, and I encourage everyone, if you don't have your kids involved with one of those, if you do have them of age, look into it, because it's amazing. Then you have to really understand your own energies and realize, like I said, what's the key? It's a lifelong adventure. So you're going to move what you're going to do, where, and how. So you are going to maybe take a little more energy and maybe throw it through, hey, you know what? I'm going to be Worshipful Master. I'm one of the primary officers. I need to start taking down some of my energy levels and some of my other groups so I can fully focus on this. Maybe in Scottish Rite, going through and I'm going to be one of the executive heads. You know what? I'm going to have to give up a little bit of energy in some other groups to be able to do this. So you have to have, just like an equalizer on a radio, you have to be able to tune yourself in so that when you raise one thing, you bring down something else. But you have to figure out what it is. It doesn't mean quitting. It means that you, at this point in your life, this is where I have to put my energy. And then find that balance and never give up on the family or the faith. Mm-hmm. That is the most important thing. Work, too. I mean, we all know that. But
right.
That's kind of a gimme.
That is sage, solid advice. Yeah.
Yep. And I ask because I'm finally, and Matt can empathize too, in a position where, in my first chunk of my Masonic journey, I had no family attachments, right? Nothing besides making sure I made time for my wife. It was a lot easier to be very active in lots of things and to offer help wherever anyone asked for it. And I think a lot of Masons who are, especially in my age group, that's usually before, when great Masons to come into Masonry are like someone who's retired, right? They come into Masonry like, this is the best. I have so much time to put in. Yep. But when you have Masons who are in their, late 20s through late 30s, somewhere in that range, you're going to see, I've seen it happen to other people too, where they come in, you rely on them for a lot because they have so much time. Then the family comes along and then they have to find the way to rebalance, like you're saying, retune their scales to find an appropriate level that they can manage while still maintaining their other obligations. And that's been kind of my challenge of the year, is trying to especially I'm going into a higher position in the Blue Lodge. Yep. And so trying to say I need to really focus on where I can be active and still maintain. And then other things need to kind of slow down because, you can't do it all.
Well, and that's exactly what I ended up doing. I mean, I ended up stopping. I was shooting an archery league every Tuesday night. That got cut out once Zoe came around because of my commitments other places. I've been a member of the York Rite for a few years now, and I go to one thing a year, and that's when Wisconsin 1 has their inspection for Order of Malta and Order of Red Cross. I haven't been back to Scottish Rite since my reunion. I haven't been to the shrine in forever, but all of my energy, that gauge on the equalizer that doesn't include family and work for Blue Lodge is maxed out right now because it needs to be. That's where I need to be, and that's where my energy, and that's where the lodge deserves to have my energy put.
But you know when you're in that zone.
Yep.
When you're balanced out, you know it because you're hitting everything that you need to hit. And I truly believe if you are the head or going to be the head of any group, you need to commit your time to that.
Yep.
And I see it all the time where guys will get positions and they're not given their 110%, and the group falls down a little bit from that. You have to be fully committed. When I don't know if you've had the same experience, but when I was worship master, you touched Masonry every night.
Oh yeah. Pretty much.
Whether it's a phone call out, it's a new article for the trestle board, whether it's calling one of your members, whether it's having a meeting, or working on your parts.
Text messages, studying, emails.
You will not succeed unless you touch Masonry, your lodge, every night.
Yep. I touch it. I touch Masonry in one way or another at least every night, at least for half an hour every day.
Well, and there's some parts you got to learn too.
Right.
We all know about that.
Yep.
And Brad, Bingham he would always tell even the Jobies 5 minutes. Yep. Give it, and I get it. Brad is a good sage advice when it comes to learning about Masonry.
Brad's one we have to wrangle on here sometimes.
You need to. He's got some really good stories and some really good advice, especially besides his Masonic stuff, but especially with his work with the Job's daughters. Just tremendous asset for Job's to have him. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
Do you want to ask our...
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you've heard me ask it before. Mm-hmm. I ask every past master that's been on the show. It was more relevant to me 9+ months ago now.
Okay.
But now it's for the benefit of still myself and definitely our listeners and definitely Andrew maybe at some point. I don't know. It all depends if he gets elected 2 more times.
We're hoping.
We'll see.
We're hoping.
We'll see.
But as a past master, what would be your one piece of advice to an incoming or currently sitting for the first time worshipful master?
It's all about team. It's all about team. No one person can do anything exactly right for everyone. It's all about team. And if you have maybe a weak team, you need to grow your team. You're the educator. You're the leader. You're the one who has to make sure that everyone is educating all of their lower ranked people to be able to learn what their responsibilities are and keep them.
Right.
But, you have to have a team around you. If you don't, then you have to build it. And it's your responsibility, in my opinion, to build it.
Yeah.
Because if you've been given that job, you are in charge of the direction of that lodge and for the education of that lodge.
Agreed.
And so I'd say, know your team. And if you don't have a team, work on building your team. And that will build the core for the future.
Yep.
Because you are really training your next people to come up.
Always be training your replacement.
Always. And that's, I guess, my best advice.
I like that.
From it, so.
I like that a lot.
Yep, and I think I've seen it in other lodges or around where the worshipful master that doesn't have a strong team tries to put a lot of that weight on their own shoulders, and it ends up not working because it's too much to ask one man to do. And yeah, I mean, I've always thought that a lodge succeeds when they're all aligned on the mission that the master's putting down, and they're all bonded well as friends. So they always don't want to let each other down so that they can kind of, work together to achieve something. I think that's great advice.
Well, and we all know what goes with team. Communication, education, leadership, development, direction.
Clear roles.
Clear roles. I mean, Bob Strader, God, I love him. Really pressed, working towards future goals. So we all buy in. And if we hit those future goals by teaching the others, we all agree that that's our direction we want to go in 5 years or whatever. Now we've got goals to hit.
Right.
And if we're all in agreement that those are our goals, we're all going to be fighting for those goals. We will hit that goal.
Yep.
And I made an analogy.
Strategic planning is what I'm looking at.
I made an analogy in a past episode that you might enjoy being a pirate, that if you don't have a map and you're on a ship and you don't have a direction that the line is following year over year, you're not sailing to a destination, you're sailing in circles, which is why it's so important that the members that are coming behind you, like every master's got to do it different, right?
Right.
But you want to have like a higher level direction that they're all moving in the way that their personality or their decision making, their preferences, they'll all be different. But if they have the right direction, they'll still be keeping the ship pointed in one way instead of letting it, sail in circles and kind of flounder around. So.
And let's not forget, it's not just the team as your active officers, but as I have always said, and I am amazed at how many worshipful masters don't take advantage of this, but you have a secondary team that you may not be aware of, and that is your past masters.
Right.
And I think almost all the past masters that I know of, and I agree completely, is I'm here for you if you need me, anytime. If you want to bounce something off me, that's no problem. Realize that I will not be offended if you do not take what I give you as advice or anything. But realize that you have a plethora of history here between the past masters when you add them all up.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a team that you can utilize if you really want to.
Right.
But that also goes take the ego away.
Oh, yeah.
And be willing to listen first.
Yeah.
And speak after.
Right.
So the team is it's not just one. There's probably 2 good teams. It may even be more teams out there. Best thing you can ever do if you ever really want to find out what's brewing in your lodge is have a meeting with the wives.
Oh, yeah.
And ask them some questions about the lodge brothers' time away. And is this taking too much from them and all this stuff? That's another team of advice that you can jump into and say, hey, you know what? I want to get a sense of, what the family life is around here.
Yeah.
They'll tell you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They'll tell you.
And that was in the beginning, before I brought this question to the podcast.
Yeah.
I was doing exactly the same thing, and it was with every active past master of Lake that I had the opportunity to run into, especially at the past masters and widows dinner that happened a short couple months before my installation. I was walking up to every single past master in there just going, what would be your one piece of advice for me?
Right.
Just to start drawing from that wealth of knowledge that you are surrounded by.
So you were utilizing the team.
Yep.
Just not your officer team. You were using your other team members there for you.
Yep.
Because we're all in this together. Mm-hmm. I've told my guys when I was a worship master, we had a night where we went through and I turned off all the lights and I did the whole Robin Williams with the flashlight on all the old pictures. And I started saying, see these faces? Mm-hmm. These faces are talking to you.
Right.
These are the men who put this place in really kind of set Damascus to where it is right now.
Right.
They gave their all. Now they have certain expectations of you. They are looking at you and asking you, what are you going to do to make Damascus better or to make it live longer?
Right.
And so, it can be very, when being asked to be a master, being asked to take over something like that can be kind of intimidating. Mm-hmm. And I feel like you were exactly right in your thoughts. You ask people who have done it before.
Yeah.
And then you get more confidence because then you also realize that team will be there for you if you need to.
Exactly. And now suddenly you have this wealth of knowledge that you just drew from that kind of answered some of the questions rattling around in your own head or let you see the path better.
We're called a brotherhood.
Right.
For a reason.
Exactly. What do you think, Andrew? I think that's a great place to wrap it up.
Yep, I think we got some great advice, Curt. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your sage wisdoms and your yo-ho-ho.
Guy talk, It's more of a guideline, really.
Awesome. Well, then we will move on to some news and events. So also got a little bit of news for you guys today. So, Melody Lodge donated $10,000 for a new fire station.
Whew, holy cow.
Their master, James Harvey, along with the fellow Masons of the Lodge, presented a check for $10,000 to the Platteville Fire Department. So they were very proud to support Platteville's Fire Department, and this donation is going to assisting them in making a new fire station. So this is another example of the fraternity offering some support to their community and recognizing our firefighters and first responders to help make their communities a safer place.
Holy cow, that's awesome. Nice work up there.
Cool. And on to events.
All right. First, I'm going to hit it near and dear to my heart because it's one of the things I tried to do this year. 2 days after this episode comes out, Saturday, September 14th, the Lake Masonic Center is holding a blood drive from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can give Versity a call, Blood Center in Wisconsin, whatever you want to call it, and make an appointment, or you can reach out to me probably at this point to get the link or for me to schedule you for an appointment. So if you email timeforfellowship@gmail.com, I will be able to help you out with that, but please sign up to donate. Blood is vital and always seems to be in short supply.
Yep. And then if you are feeling a little woozy and you need to get your carbs on, also on the 14th in the evening, Ozaki Lodge is having their trivia night potluck at 5:30 p.m. $7 cover. You get lasagna, which will make your blood feel better. Oh, yeah. And there'll be a contest at 6 p.m. It's open to family and friends. If you're interested, please reach out to Brother Irwin. You can find more information and his contact information in your Masonic journal. Another event I want to talk about is on September 21st, Burlington Lodge number 28 is having their 175th anniversary / open house. It's from 1 to 3 p.m. They're going to have a reconsecration at 3 p.m., a banquet at 5 p.m., and guess what? They got live music from 4 to 7 p.m. Tickets are $30, and you can RSVP by emailing them at burlingtonfreemasons@gmail.com.
Also on the 21st would be the Conference of Principal Officers up in Watoma. There's a bunch of information about that in your most recent issue of the Wisconsin Masonic Journal. So please go there to see how to RSVP, and please check that out. Also on the 21st, you should have, if you're in District 12, you should have seen emails come out about the volunteering to do some park cleanups and stuff like that with the Grand Lodge staff. So please take a look at those emails and consider signing up to volunteer for that.
Also on the 21st, there's Three Pillars Fest from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., and it is free. It's a family-oriented event, open to the public. It's going to have a classic car show, resident-managed scavenger hunt, live music, food trucks, beverages, bounce houses, fishing, Lions Club grill, rock wall, face painting, free Kona ice, and more. It's going to be at Three Pillars Endowment.
Also on September 21st, again, another awesome event. The Shriners Children's Gala is going on at III Shrine. It's from 5 to 9 p.m. It has a cash bar, appetizers, prime rib dinner, silent auction, and raffles. Cost is $85 a person. All proceeds support Shriners Children's. And if you would like to RSVP to that, you can go to iishrine.com or call the III Shrine phone number.
So then, after that very eventful 21st of September, on the 25th, there will be a District 12 Warden's Workshop at 7 p.m., and it has beats. It's going to be at West Dallas Masonic Center. Please RSVP on our lodge page.
On September 26th, there's an event open to all entered apprentices, fellow crafts, and master masons. It is a steak dinner, Masonic trivia, and bourbon tasting. It goes from 7 to 9 p.m. It's at Fort Winnebago Lodge in Portage. Cost is $25 payable at the door the night of the event, although RSVPs are required to ensure the head count for the food. Please RSVP to District Deputy Ryan Mayrand no later than Thursday, September 19th, and that email is dd7@wimasons.org.
Coming up on September 28th, the Valley of Milwaukee Scottish Rite is doing a cruise with the Valley. It's going to be a beautiful evening on the Harbor Lady ship on Lake Michigan. For more information, check out the Scottish Rite's website, the Valley of Milwaukee Scottish Rite. Also on the 28th, there's a leadership training event going on at Eagle River Lodge. It's going to be from 10 a.m. for coffee and carbs, and it says experience Williams Lodge training through immersive, hands-on guided activities. So from 10:15 to 4 p.m., they're going to have a lunch, some workbooks, material, and other training options, and it's going to be $20 a person. The proceeds are going to Masonic Youth Funds, and the key is they're going to have a special emphasis on Masonic Lodge management. And if you want more information on that, please reach out to past Grandmaster Carl Wusso for more info.
And that should take us through events. I do want to...
I want to do one more.
Go ahead.
On the 29th of September, Wisconsin Lodge 13 is doing a gun raffle.
Oh, yeah.
The drawing is going to be at 4 p.m. at McKinley Lodge. For more information on that, please reach out to Jason. And Brother Jason, you can find his information on Wisconsin 13's Our Lodge page.
Perfect. I did want to send a big apology to the gentleman at Fort Winnebago Lodge there in Portage. You had invited us to come to your steak dinner, Masonic trivia, and bourbon tasting event. Unfortunately, that is the same night that Lake Lodge is holding their past master and widow's dinner, so Andrew and I are already committed to that.
Yeah, apparently I'm like running that thing, so.
Yeah, well, you know, it's very important to honor your past masters and widows, so we had that event on the calendar before this came up, so unfortunately I hope you guys have a great event and a great time with that. Steak dinner and bourbon tasting along with Masonic trivia does sound right up our alley though, so hopefully this goes well for you, and if you haven't in the future, our schedules will allow us to come join.
Absolutely. Cool.
Well, make sure you're following us on all of our socials, TikTok, X, Facebook, Instagram. Make sure you're sharing our posts or interacting with them to help us get us out there more in the algorithm. Make sure you're rating and subscribing the podcast on whatever platform you listen to it.
And a huge thanks to Curt for coming on the podcast today. I'm sure you guys have been wondering who that voice was all the time.
Right.
And I really hope you guys enjoyed having him join us at Fellowship.
Thank you to Curt, and thank you very much to our listeners, and have a good day, everyone.
Take care.